In my approach for self-discovery, I've come across some incredible people, but if there's one person who has really been an enigma to understand as to whether his approach provides deep, meaningful happiness, it's David Goggins. So in this video, I'm going to explore and critique his philosophy. David Goggins is simply an absolute beast, and there's no other way to put it. Having done 3 Navy SEAL Hell Weeks, and pulled off crazy feats, like one of his first 100-mile marathons that he ran, with 0 training, weighing 240 to 270 pounds. David described running 70 miles and being so incapacitated that he had to sit down, peeing blood down his leg with stress fractures and shin splints to the likes that no one had ever seen before, where he then did the indescribable by taping up these stress fractures so that he could continue to run and finish the race, which he ended up doing, which is just an incredible testament to the human mind and the human spirit. And it's inspiring knowing that someone with a backstory of being called nigger, being called faggot, being called horrible things growing up, being bullied to an extent that he built a character. He built this incredibly strong Goggins archetypical character of just this warrior mentality from nothing, from grit, from throwing himself into the deep end with relentless attack mentality is incredibly inspiring, especially for a young man growing up.
Why? Because it sucks. That's why I'm so happy right now.
Being someone who is now well trained in spiritual practice, in developing equanimity and non-reactivity to unpleasant sensation, and developing that relationship over time, it seems that Goggins naturally developed that and developed a almost transcendent way of approaching training where he could push through even the most intense suffering and pain. So Goggins is so deeply spiritual. He's one of the most mindful and advanced spiritual practitioners, perhaps without even knowing it. He knows that true happiness is found by going into your own mind. He knows that you have to develop equanimity and not let fear and pain control your life and push forward in the service of yourself and others. And he knows the importance of ritual, of doing the same things every day and callousing and disciplining your mind and almost stoically preparing himself for death and the most difficult things that arise, which has so much value in his own unique and authentic expression. He fills a void in us, this warrior, this get after it mentality that so many of us lack nowadays because we have it so good and we're so fortunate, particularly in the West, with just minimal adversity.
The more you walk away from accountability, the weaker you become.
However, where Goggins, I don't think, has realized that he can take it to the next level is by failing to see his dualistic approach. He still thinks that you need to almost masochistically go out and challenge yourself in the world in order to be happy, to prepare yourself by relentlessly smashing yourself against the rocks every day and doing these hard, difficult tasks, which is obviously noble, but it's a dead end. See, this is exactly what the Buddha discovered after all of his years of practice. The story of the Buddha goes that essentially he traveled the world practicing all various techniques before he came across the technique that eventually led to his liberation. And one of those prerequisite practices was ascetic practice, where he would whip and lash himself and put hooks in his back and stuff and fast and do all these crazy experiments in order to develop non-reactivity and self-transcendence and change his relationship to pain. But then only later on did he realize that that wasn't necessary, when the Buddha sat himself under the Bodhi tree and simply sat and observed whatever came up in his own mind, without reactivity, without seeking external things like in David Goggins' case and running these hard, recently 200-mile marathons in order to find and callous his own mind.
Find yourself in the grip of life. You can't find yourself by doing nothing.
I think what it always comes back to is the middle way. See, Goggins, in my eyes, is so far on the pendulum, swung over to the right side. So the heart of this mini essay really comes back to encouraging Goggins and those looking to embody his mentality to consider pulling back, to pull back from that right-ended side of the pendulum to the middle way, to the center. Now that he's experienced that end of the spectrum, integrating more spiritual practice that essentially cuts to the root, that negates the necessity to have to go out and brutalize and ascetically treat your body to prove to yourself the hardness and the callous of your mind which already exists within. Not to stop running and being soft and stop facing our fears. We need to be active in the world, but to have to consistently feel the need to prove yourself, fighting against relentless unpleasantness, much like the Buddha discovered, was a dead end.